The bridge of the Earth warship Indomitable was quiet. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair and looked over the daily reports. It had been 3 years since humans joined the Galactic Council. 3 long years of careful diplomacy and walking on eggshells. The other alien species found humans scary, and Jake understood why. Earth was different from other planets. Most alien worlds were peaceful and safe. Earth was not. Earth had deadly storms, dangerous animals, and diseases that killed without mercy. The aliens called it a death world, and they called humans Deathworlders. They were afraid of what humans might do. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at the communications station. Her hands moved across the glowing controls as she checked the incoming messages. Suddenly, she stopped and looked up. "Captain, we have a distress signal coming in," she said. Her voice was tight with concern. "It's on the emergency channel, Priority 1. Jake sat up straight. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and changed. An alien appeared on the screen. Jake recognized the species as a Valoran. Their skin was blue and see-through like glass, but this Valoran looked terrible. Burns covered their skin. Blood ran from cuts on their face. Behind them, Jake could see fires burning and hear alarms screaming. "This is Ambassador Kethvar of the transport ship Harmony's Light," the Valoran said. Their voice shook with fear and pain. "We are under attack. Raiders have broken our engines. They are boarding our ship right now. We have 300 people on board. Many are children. Please, anyone who hears this, we have no weapons. We cannot fight back. They will kill us all or sell us as slaves." The transmission started to break up. Jake heard screaming in the background. He heard the sound of weapons firing. People were dying right now while he watched. "Our shields are breaking. Please help us. The nearest Council defense station is 20 light years away. If anyone can hear this message, please come and help us." The transmission cut to static and went dead. Nobody on the bridge spoke. Everyone turned to look at Jake. He knew what they were thinking. The Valorans were peaceful traders. They barely understood violence. They had no idea how to fight. They would be helpless against raiders. The Valorans had been kind to humans when Earth first joined the Council. Even though they were clearly afraid of humans, they had welcomed Earth with open arms. They had shown friendship when others showed only fear. "Communications, send a message on all Council channels," Jake said. His voice was cold and hard. "Tell the Council that Earth is responding to the distress call. Navigation, plot a jump to those coordinates right now. Engineering, get the slipstream drive ready in 5 minutes." Commander Ben Hayes leaned closer to Jake. He was the executive officer, second in command of the ship. "Sir, the rules say we need Council approval before any military action. If we jump without permission, there will be consequences." "Then they can complain after we save those people," Jake said. He did not care about the rules right now. "I'm not going to let 300 civilians die because of paperwork. Tactical, send a coded message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them to mobilize the 3rd Fleet. Have them meet us at these coordinates." Lieutenant Kyle Sanders at the tactical station looked shocked. "Sir, the 3rd Fleet? That's 75 warships." "You heard me correctly," Jake said. His face was grim and hard. "The raiders need to learn that attacking innocent people has a price. Helm, engage the slipstream drive as soon as we're ready." "Yes, sir," came the replies from around the bridge. As the ship's engines began to charge up, Jake pulled up information about the Krathon Empire. They were the raiders attacking the Valoran ship. The files showed that Krathons were reptile-like aliens who attacked weak targets. They were cowards who ran away from any real fight. Their ships were fast and their weapons were rough but effective. The Galactic Council had tried for years to make peace with the Krathons. They offered trade deals and territory. Nothing worked. The Krathons just took what they wanted and laughed at the Council's weakness. "Captain, we're getting messages from the Council," Amy said. "Multiple ambassadors are demanding that we stop and wait for proper approval." Tell them we got their messages and then ignore them, Jake said flatly. Helm, are we ready? Slipstream drive is charged and ready, sir. Then let's go save those people. Engage! The Indomitable shook as space bent around it. The ship dove into the swirling blue tunnel of slipstream space. They were going faster than light now, crossing vast distances in minutes instead of years. Behind them on Earth, the message had already arrived. In space stations and military bases all across the solar system, ship captains got their orders. Crews ran to their battle stations. Weapons were armed and shields were powered up. The Third Fleet was mobilizing. 75 warships were preparing to jump into space at the same location. It was the largest military force humanity had ever deployed since joining the Galactic Council. For the first time in galactic history, humans were going to war. Not to conquer or destroy, but to save innocent lives. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you attacked civilians while humans were watching. The Council could debate and argue all they wanted. Humans had made their decision. When someone called for help, humans answered. It did not matter if the call came from allies or strangers. It did not matter if there were rules against it. Humans would always answer the call. Jake watched the swirling blue of slipstream space flow past the view screen. In a few minutes, they would arrive at the Valoran ship. They would face 7 Krathon raider vessels. Jake did not know if they would arrive in time. He did not know if the Valorans were already dead. But he knew one thing for certain. The Krathons were about to face something they had never encountered before. They were about to face humans who were angry, humans who had mobilized for war, humans who would not stop until every single civilian was safe. The Deathworlders were coming, and they were bringing an armada with them. Back on the Indomitable's bridge, the crew worked with smooth efficiency. They had trained for moments like this. Every person knew their job and did it perfectly. There was no panic, no hesitation, just cold professional skill. Approaching target coordinates, the helm officer announced. 30 seconds to arrival. Jake gripped the arms of his command chair. All hands to battle stations. Shields to maximum. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless I give the order. Remember, we're here to save people, not start a war. 20 seconds. Communications, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies as soon as we arrive. I want those raiders to know exactly who they're dealing with. 10 seconds. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. In a few seconds, they would know if they were too late. They would know if 300 Valorans were already dead. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Emergence. The Indomitable burst out of slipstream space back into normal reality. The main view screen cleared and showed them the scene ahead. The Valoran transport ship hung in space like a wounded animal. Its engines were dark and dead. Burn marks scarred its hull. 7 Krathon raider ships surrounded it like sharks circling prey. Sir, I'm detecting Krathon boarding parties inside the Valoran ship, Kyle reported from Tactical. They've destroyed the communications array and jettisoned the life pods. The Valorans have nowhere to run. Jake's hands tightened into fists. They were still alive. They had made it in time. Open a channel to the Krathon vessels, he ordered. Amy worked her controls. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force, Jake said. His voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. The vessel you're attacking sent out a distress call. You have 2 minutes to pull back your boarding parties, power down your weapons, and prepare to surrender. Do it now or face the consequences. On the view screen, a Krathon appeared. He was covered in scales and had sharp teeth. His eyes were cold and mean. This is Commander Varkos. We are conducting salvage operations on a derelict vessel. You are not needed here, human. Leave now. Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but kept his voice calm. That's not a derelict. That's a ship full of civilians you're murdering and enslaving. I gave you a chance to surrender. You should take it. Varkos bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. You are 1 ship, human. We are 7. Leave now, or we will take your ship as well." Jake looked at the Krathon commander for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a nice smile. Commander Varkos stood on the bridge of his raider ship and watched his crew work. Everything was going according to plan. His boarding parties had taken control of the Valoran transport ship quickly. The aliens had barely fought back at all. So weak and pathetic. "Status report," Varkos growled into his communicator. "Engineering is secure. We destroyed their communications. We threw out all the life pods," came the reply. "The prey has nowhere to run." Varkos felt satisfied. The Valorans would bring good money at the slave markets, especially the young ones. He had already started counting his profits. "Commander," one of his crew called out, "we're detecting something. A ship just came out of slipstream space nearby." Varkos felt a small worry start in his mind. "Is it a council patrol?" "Checking now, sir." A moment later, his communicator came alive again. This time, his crew member sounded uncertain. "Commander, the ship says it's from Earth. The signature matches. They're human." Fear shot through Varkos like ice water. Earth? The Death World? Every species in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was a planet that tried to kill everything that lived on it. Massive storms that destroyed cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, predators that hunted in organized packs, diseases that changed faster than medicine could stop them. And somehow, intelligent life had not just survived, but thrived there. The Council had let humans join 3 years ago. Many species had complained. They looked at Earth's history and were horrified. Humans ate meat from animals they killed themselves. They fought each other for sport and entertainment. Their books and movies celebrated war. Their entire history was written in blood. Their planet had made them into something the galaxy had never seen before. Deathworlders. "Tell all ships to prepare to leave," Varkos ordered. He tried to keep his voice steady. "We'll take what we have and go." "Commander, the human ship is sending us a message." Varkos hesitated, then opened the communication channel. "This is Commander Varkos of the Krathon raiding fleet. We are doing salvage work on a broken ship. You don't need to be here." A human appeared on the screen. He was tall with hard features. His eyes were cold blue like ice. When he spoke, his voice was completely calm. Too calm. That made him even more scary. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. The ship you're salvaging sent out a distress call. You have 2 minutes to pull back your boarding parties and power down your weapons. Do it now or face what happens next." Varkos felt his scales ripple with anger. How dare this Deathworlder give him orders? "You are 1 ship, human. We are 7. Leave now, or we will add your ship to our collection." The human's face did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something dangerous and predatory, like a hunter who had just spotted prey. "I gave you a chance to surrender. You should have taken it." The transmission ended. Varkos turned to his tactical officer. "All ships, prepare to fight. Target their engines and weapons. We'll disable them and then board their ship. Show these Deathworlders that we are not afraid." "Commander, we're detecting more slipstream signatures. Multiple contacts forming right behind the human ship." Varkos felt his blood turn cold. He watched his view screen in growing horror as the contact markers multiplied. 1 ship became 5. 5 became 10. 10 became 20. They kept coming and coming, appearing out of slipstream space in perfect formation. Massive warships that made Krathon raiders look like toys. Each one bristled with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. "How many?" Varkos whispered. 75 ships and still counting, Commander," his tactical officer said. His voice shook with fear. "They've launched fighter craft, hundreds of small attack ships. They're surrounding us on all sides." The communication channel opened again. This time a different human appeared, a woman with dark hair pulled back tight. Her uniform had markings that showed she was very high-ranking. "This is Admiral Laura Grant of the Earth Defense Force 3rd Fleet," she said. Her voice was hard and cold. Attention all Krathon vessels. You are completely surrounded. Power down your weapons immediately. Withdraw your boarding parties from that transport ship. Surrender now. You have 60 seconds to comply. This is your only warning. Varkos looked at his tactical display. His hands shook slightly. 7 raider ships against 75 human warships. Hundreds of fighter craft flying in attack patterns around them. This was not a battle. This was not even a fight. This was an execution waiting to happen. The galaxy had always said humans were dangerous. Fast and violent and unpredictable. But Varkos had thought that violence would make them disorganized. He thought they would argue and fight among themselves. He thought they would be slow to work together. He was wrong. So terribly wrong. When Deathworlders mobilized for war, they did not come with half measures. They did not come with small forces and careful plans. They came with everything they had. They came ready to destroy anything that stood in their way. Pull back all boarding parties, Varkos said quietly. Power down all weapons. Send the surrender signal to the human fleet. His crew stared at him in shock. Commander, we outnumber them 7-1. No, we don't, Varkos snapped. They outnumber us 75-7, and every single one of those ships has more firepower than our entire fleet combined. Do it now, unless you want to learn what weapons from a death world can do to our ships. His crew scrambled to obey. All around the Krathon fleet, weapons powered down. Boarding parties rushed back to their ships. The surrender signal went out across all channels. Varkos slumped in his command chair. His raid had been perfect. Everything had gone according to plan. And then the humans showed up and ended it in minutes without firing a single shot. The galaxy had made a mistake. They had seen humans as violent and assumed that meant they would be chaotic. But violence and chaos were not the same thing. Humans were violent, yes. But they were organized, disciplined. They could mobilize an entire battle fleet in hours and have it jump across the galaxy in perfect formation. That combination was what made them truly terrifying. On the Valoran transport ship, Ambassador Kethvar huddled in a cargo bay with the other survivors. They had heard the Krathon raiders leaving. They heard new sounds now. Heavy footsteps in the corridors, the sound of doors being forced open. The cargo bay doors opened with a hiss. Kethvar looked up in fear. What they saw made them freeze in shock. Soldiers entered the room, but not Krathon soldiers. These were different. They wore heavy armor that covered them completely. Their weapons were raised and ready. They moved with smooth coordination that spoke of intense training. The lead soldier's helmet pulled back, revealing a young woman with green eyes. She looked around the cargo bay with a professional expression. I'm Lieutenant Sophie Martinez of the Earth Defense Force Marine Corps, she said. Her voice was firm but kind. You're safe now. Medical teams are coming. Is anyone badly hurt? Kethvar slowly stood up on shaking legs. You came, but how? The nearest council station is days away at best. We were closer, Sophie said simply. And we don't leave civilians to die. Can you walk? We need to get you to our medical bay. As Kethvar was led out of the cargo bay, they looked through a viewport and nearly fell over in shock. The space around the transport ship was filled with human warships, huge vessels that made even the biggest council defense platforms look small. Sleek fighter craft flew between them in complex patrol patterns. In the distance, Kethvar could see Krathon raider ships being pulled by tractor beams toward waiting prison ships. The humans had not just saved them, they had brought an entire armada. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Jake watched the rescue operation proceed smoothly. His crew had done everything perfectly. The Third Fleet's arrival had been timed to the exact second. The Krathons had surrendered without anyone needing to fire a shot. Captain, the Galactic Council is demanding to speak with you immediately, Amy reported. They sound very angry. I bet they are, Jake said dryly. Put them through on the main screen. The view screen split into multiple windows. Each one showed a different alien ambassador. The Centaurian representative looked particularly upset. Their feathers were standing up straight in agitation. "Captain Morrison, this is a massive violation of proper procedure," they said in a high voice. "You mobilized a military fleet without Council approval. You engaged in military action in Council space without authorization. This is practically an act of war." "Against who?" Jake asked calmly. "Against the raiders who were about to murder 300 innocent civilians? I'll be happy to explain my actions to any court you want to set up." "The point is following the rules, Captain," a Delthonian ambassador said. Multiple eyes blinked on their face. "We have procedures for dealing with these situations. You must follow the proper channels." "Your proper channels would have taken 2 days to approve a response," Commander Ben said from beside Jake. "Those people would have been dead or enslaved by then." "That is not the point of the discussion," the Centaurian began. "That's exactly the point," Jake interrupted. His voice got harder. 300 civilians sent out a distress call. We answered it. If your procedures are more important to you than saving lives, then maybe you need new procedures. An uncomfortable silence fell over all the communication channels. Finally, the Valoran Council representative spoke up. Their voice was soft and gentle. "Captain Morrison, on behalf of all Valoran people, we thank you. You saved our citizens when no one else would or could. Whatever complaints the Council may have, we will stand with Earth on this matter." "We also stand with Earth," another voice said. Jake was surprised to see it was Ambassador Chen of the Pleiadian Confederation. They were usually very careful and diplomatic. "The Krathons have raided our colonies for years while the Council debated what to do. Maybe it's time we learned from Earth's example." The Centaurian ambassador looked shocked. "You cannot be serious. The humans mobilized 75 warships in just a few hours. Do you understand what that means? They could gather that force again at any time, anywhere they want. That level of military power is dangerous." "Only to raiders and slavers," Jake said quietly. "We came here to save people, not to conquer anyone. But if you're asking whether Earth can respond quickly to threats, then yes, we can. And we're not going to apologize for being able to save lives." Admiral Grant's face appeared in another window. "Council members, the Krathon vessels are now secure. We found evidence of 16 other raids in the past 6 months alone. We're turning all prisoners over to Council authorities for trial." 16 raids, the Valoran ambassador repeated softly. 16 times they attacked civilians while the Council talked and delayed. Captain Morrison, Admiral Grant, you have our eternal gratitude, whatever the bureaucrats decide to say. The conference call began falling apart as ambassadors argued with each other. Jake muted the audio feed and turned to Ben. "Get me a casualty report from the Valoran ship. I need to know if we made it in time." "Already done, sir. 3 Valorans were killed in the initial attack. 17 were wounded. Medical teams say all the wounded will make full recoveries." News of what happened at the Valoran transport ship spread through the galaxy faster than light. Within days, every species in Council space had heard the story. Humans had mobilized 75 warships in response to a single distress call. They had jumped 20 light-years across space. They had secured the entire situation without firing a single shot in anger. The reactions varied wildly depending on which species you asked. On the Krathon homeworld, the High Command met in emergency session. General Scrath slammed his clawed fist down on the conference table hard enough to crack it. "This is an outrage. The humans humiliated us. Our raiders were conducting normal operations when these Deathworlders interfered." "Normal operations?" Commander Velk interrupted. He was one of the few reasonable voices left in Krathon leadership. "They were raiding a civilian transport full of innocent people. How is that normal?" "It's how we've always done things. The Council knows this. They accept it. The Council tolerates it because we're usually fast enough to escape before they can respond," Velk said bluntly. "The humans changed that completely. They can mobilize faster than we can run away. If we continue raiding, we will eventually meet another human fleet. Next time, they might not give us the chance to surrender." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. For hundreds of years, the Krathons had prospered by being faster and more willing to use violence than the peaceful Council species. But humans were faster still, and humans were far more comfortable with violence than any species the Krathons had ever faced. "What do you suggest we do?" Scrath asked finally. "We need to completely rethink our strategy," Velk said. "The galaxy has changed. There's a new power now, and they don't follow the old rules. They don't debate and delay. They act immediately with overwhelming force." Meanwhile, in the council chambers, the debate raged on for days. The human action had split the council almost perfectly in half. "It sets a dangerous precedent," the Centaurian ambassador argued loudly. "If every species decides to mobilize military forces without approval, we will have chaos. Then perhaps we would actually save people instead of watching them die while we debate proper procedure," the Valoran ambassador shot back. "My people are alive because the humans acted quickly. That is not something I will ever condemn." Ambassador Chen of the Pleiadian Confederation stood to speak. The chamber quieted to hear what they would say. "I propose we officially commend the Earth Defense Force for their actions. Furthermore, I propose we revise our emergency response protocols to allow for rapid military deployment in cases of civilian distress calls." The chamber erupted in shouting. Some species saw this as an opportunity to fix outdated procedures that got people killed. Others saw it as the beginning of a more militarized galaxy that terrified them to their core. On Earth, the response was completely different. Captain Jake Morrison found himself giving interviews to news outlets across the entire planet. The story resonated deeply with human audiences everywhere. Innocent people in danger, a call for help, an immediate response with overwhelming force to protect them. "Captain Morrison," one reporter asked during a press conference, "some council members have called your actions reckless and dangerous. How do you respond to that criticism?" Jake thought carefully about his words before speaking. "I respond that 300 Valoran civilians are alive today because we chose action over procedure. I respect the need for rules and protocols, but not when they prevent us from saving innocent lives. The Third Fleet mobilized in 4 hours and 47 minutes. That's what humans can do when we decide something truly matters." "Are you concerned that the Council might punish Earth for this action?" "If they do, we'll deal with whatever consequences come. But I don't think they will, because at the end of the day, every species in that council knows that if their people are in danger and they call for help, we will come for them. That's worth more than any bureaucratic approval." The video clip went viral across the Galactic Information Network. Species after species watched the human captain calmly explain his reasoning. Many began to reconsider their opinions about Earth and its people. Admiral Laura Grant was in her ready room on the flagship Constitution when the secure communication came through. The face on the screen belonged to Secretary of Defense Ryan Mitchell, calling directly from Earth. "Admiral, I wanted to personally commend you on the operation," he said warmly. "The President is very pleased with the results. You achieved exactly what we hoped for. A decisive show of strength combined with proper restraint." "Thank you, sir. The crews performed exceptionally well under pressure." They certainly did. And now comes the harder part of this whole situation. The Council is in complete chaos. Half of them want to officially censure us. The other half wants to hire us as their personal security force. We need to navigate this carefully and diplomatically. Laura nodded in understanding. "What are our orders going forward?" "Continue standard patrol operations, but maintain the Third Fleet at high readiness status. If another distress call comes in, I want you to be able to respond just as quickly. We're establishing a precedent here, Admiral. Humans respond to distress calls immediately, no matter what. The Council can debate it all they want, but that's our official policy now. Understood completely, sir. After the communication ended, Laura sat quietly in thought. The galaxy was changing in fundamental ways, and Earth was at the very center of that change. For billions of years, the Council had operated on consensus and extreme caution. Now there was a new factor in the equation, a species from a death world, shaped by constant violence and survival, but choosing to use their strength to protect the weak rather than exploit them. It was a powerful combination. It terrified as many species as it inspired. On the transport ship Harmony's Light, now under repair in a human orbital facility, Ambassador Kethvar walked through the corridors with Lieutenant Sophie Martinez as their guide. "Your medical technology is truly remarkable," Kethvar said, gesturing to their fully healed burns. "Our own doctors said it would take months for me to recover. Your medical team healed me completely in just 3 days." Sophie smiled warmly. "When you come from a planet that's constantly trying to kill you, you get really good at emergency medicine. We have to be good at it just to survive. I'm beginning to understand that truth. Tell me, Lieutenant, why did your people respond so quickly? The Council has established protocols and procedures for everything. Your actions violated all of them. Weren't you concerned about the political consequences?" Sophie stopped walking and turned to face the Valoran directly. Her expression was serious and honest. "Ambassador, I'm going to tell you something important about humans. We're not perfect. We have our problems and our conflicts and our failures. But there's one thing that's been consistent throughout our entire history. No matter what. When someone is in trouble, when someone calls for help, we answer that call. It's not always pretty and it's not always by the book, but we answer. Even for complete strangers? For aliens you barely know?" "Especially for strangers," Sophie said firmly. "Because we know exactly what it's like to be alone and afraid and facing death. Every human knows that feeling deep in their bones. So when we heard your distress call, there was never any question about whether we would respond. The only question was how fast we could get there to help you." Kethvar felt their eyes moisten with emotion. "The galaxy is not accustomed to such thinking. Most species would have debated the proper response. They would have consulted with committees. They would have waited for official approval before acting. Then maybe the galaxy needs to get used to a different way of doing things," Sophie replied. "Come on. I'll show you the observation deck. The view of your ship from there is quite impressive." As they walked together, Kethvar thought about the implications of what Sophie had said. The humans had done more than just save lives today. They had shown the galaxy that there was another path forward, one that prioritized taking action over endless deliberation, one that valued protection over politics. It was a lesson that many species were only beginning to learn and understand. Back on the bridge of the Indomitable, Jake received another communication. This one was from a group of civilian Velerans who had been rescued from the transport. "Captain Morrison," the leader of the group said. Their voice was full of emotion. "We wanted to thank you personally. We were certain we were going to die. When your ships appeared, it felt like a miracle. You saved our lives and the lives of our children. We can never repay that debt." Jake felt uncomfortable with such open gratitude. "You don't owe us anything. We just did what anyone should do when they hear someone calling for help." "But you are the only ones who did help us," the Veleran said simply. "The Council stations were too far away. No one else could have reached us in time. Only Earth responded, and you responded with such overwhelming force that the raiders surrendered without a fight. You are heroes to our people." After the call ended, Jake sat back in his chair. Commander Ben walked over and stood beside him. "Getting used to being called a hero, sir?" Ben asked with a slight smile. "I don't feel like a hero," Jake admitted. "I feel like we just did our job. We heard people in trouble and we helped them. That's what we're supposed to do." "Maybe that's exactly what makes it heroic," Ben said thoughtfully. Most species see helping strangers as something special and unusual, something that requires debate and approval. But humans see it as just doing their job, as the basic minimum of decent behavior. Jake considered that perspective. You might be right. We grew up on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Maybe that taught us that survival requires helping each other, that we're stronger together than apart. Well, the galaxy is learning that lesson now, Ben said, whether they like it or not. 3 months after the incident at the Valoran transport, the entire Galactic Council convened for a historic vote. The massive chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. The tension in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The vote was on Resolution 7742. It would officially recognize Earth's actions as appropriate and proper. It would also establish new emergency protocols that allowed immediate military deployment in response to civilian distress calls. No more waiting for committee approval. No more endless debates while people died. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the Earth delegation section. Next to him were Admiral Laura Grant and Ambassador Alex Turner, Earth's main diplomatic representative to the Council. They watched in silence as species after species cast their votes on the massive display board. The Valorans voted in favor, which was completely expected. So did the Pleiadians. To everyone's surprise, several traditionally cautious species followed their lead. The Centaurians could not decide and chose to abstain from voting. The final count came down to the last few votes. When the display showed the final tally, Resolution 7742 had passed by a margin of 62 votes to 58. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some species cheered and celebrated. Others protested loudly. But the decision was made and recorded. Earth's actions were officially recognized as appropriate. The galaxy's emergency response protocols had been permanently changed after 10,000 years of tradition. History in the making, Ambassador Turner said quietly to Jake. They just rewrote 10 millennia of established procedure because of what you did. We just saved some innocent people, Jake replied with a shrug. They're the ones who decided it meant something bigger than that. After the voting session ended, Jake found himself surrounded by dozens of ambassadors. Some wanted to personally thank Earth for forcing the Council to change. Others wanted to warn him that this would not be the last time humanity clashed with established galactic norms. All of them recognized that the galaxy was fundamentally different now. Ambassador Keth Var was among those who approached Jake. The Valoran looked far healthier than the last time they had met. The burns were completely healed, and their blue skin glowed with vitality and life. Captain Morrison, I wanted to tell you personally that all 300 people you saved have made full recoveries. Many of them have specifically asked to meet you and thank you in person. Jake smiled genuinely. I'm very glad they're all doing well. That's all that really mattered to us. It matters deeply to us as well. Captain, the Valoran government has officially approved a formal treaty with Earth. We would like to establish regular trade routes and cultural exchanges. We're also proposing a mutual defense agreement. Your people showed us what true friendship looks like in action. We would be honored to have such a relationship with your people, Jake said sincerely. As Kethvar moved on to speak with others, Commander Ben approached Jake with a datapad in hand. Sir, you need to see this intelligence report. It just came in. Jake scanned the information on the pad and felt a grim satisfaction wash over him. Krathon raiding activity is down 70% across the entire sector. Turns out when pirates and raiders know there's a fleet that will actually respond quickly to distress calls, they become much more cautious about who they attack, Ben explained. Several major raider groups have reportedly disbanded completely. Others have shifted their focus to smuggling contraband instead of attacking civilian ships. Good. Maybe they're finally learning that there are consequences for their actions. Aboard the Constitution, Admiral Laura Grant reviewed deployment reports for the newly expanded Rapid Response Fleet. After the huge success at the Valoran rescue, Earth Defense Command had authorized the creation of 3 additional rapid response groups. Each group was capable of deploying 75 ships within 6 hours of receiving any distress call. Her aide, Lieutenant Commander Greg Phillips, looked over her shoulder at the tactical display showing all the new deployments. "The logistics involved are quite impressive, Admiral. We've effectively militarized humanitarian response operations." "Is that meant as a criticism, Commander?" Laura asked without looking up. "No, ma'am. Just making an observation. We're using military warships to save civilians. It's an interesting combination." Laura finally looked up at him. Perhaps it's not a contradiction at all. Perhaps it's exactly what military forces should be doing in the first place, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. We have the strength, the speed, and the advanced technology. Using all that capability to save lives instead of taking them seems like the right choice to me. "The Council seems to agree with you now," Greg noted. 5 other species have already formally requested training on rapid response protocols. Then we'll teach them everything we know. The more species that can respond quickly to distress calls, the safer the entire galaxy becomes for everyone. Back on Earth, in the busy city of New York, news feeds were playing continuous footage of the Galactic Council vote. In bars and restaurants across the city, people watched as human representatives stood to accept the Council's official recognition. In one crowded bar, a group of off-duty Earth Defense Force officers raised their glasses high in a toast. "To the Indomitable and the Third Fleet," one of them said loudly, "for showing the entire galaxy what humans do when someone needs help." "To Deathworlders with compassionate hearts," another added with a wide grin. They drank together, and across Earth and all its colonies, millions of other people felt the same sense of pride. Humanity had proven itself not just as fierce warriors, but as dedicated protectors of the innocent. The reputation that had once made other species nervous and afraid now inspired them with hope instead. 3 years after joining the Galactic Council as unknowns, Earth had finally found its true role in galactic civilization, not as conquerors seeking to dominate, not as merchants focused only on profit, but as the species that answered the call when others were in mortal danger. 6 months after the Harmony's Light incident, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as they completed what was supposed to be a routine patrol through a quiet sector. The ship had become something of a legend throughout the galaxy. Whenever they entered a new system, local traffic would immediately signal their respect and gratitude. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission on the emergency channel," Amy announced from her station. Jake felt his pulse quicken instinctively. "Put it through immediately." An alien face appeared on the main view screen. Jake did not recognize the species at all. They looked panicked and desperate. Their ship was clearly damaged badly, with fires visible in the background. "This is cargo vessel Fortune's Hope. We've been attacked by unknown hostiles. Our engines are completely destroyed and life support is failing fast. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need immediate help." "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the EDF Indomitable," Jake interrupted quickly. "We're receiving your distress call clearly and we're moving to intercept your position right now. Help is on the way. Just hold on and stay calm." The alien's expression shifted dramatically from complete despair to sudden hope. "You're humans? The Deathworlders who saved the Valorans?" "That's right," Jake said with a confident smile. "And we're coming to get you right now. Navigation, plot an intercept course at maximum speed. Communications, alert the rapid response fleet immediately. Someone get me Admiral Grant on a secure channel." As the Indomitable surged forward at full power and the emergency call went out across the fleet, Jake felt a deep sense of purpose settle over him like a comfortable cloak. This was what humanity was truly meant to do in the galaxy, not conquer or dominate through fear, not exploit the weak for profit, but protect and defend those who could not defend themselves. They were Deathworlders, shaped and hardened by a planet that tried to kill them every single day. But they had made a conscious choice to use that incredible strength not for conquest and destruction, but for salvation and protection. And across the vast expanse of the galaxy, species that had once feared humanity deeply now looked up to the stars with genuine hope. They knew with absolute certainty that if they ever needed help, if they ever had to send out a desperate distress call into the endless void of space, the Deathworlders would answer that call. They would always answer. With the overwhelming fury of a fully mobilized armada and the deep compassion of those who truly understood what it meant to fight for survival, humanity had carved out a unique and powerful role in galactic civilization. Not as the strongest warriors, though they were certainly that. Not as the richest traders or the wisest philosophers or the most advanced scientists, but as the tireless guardians who came running when others called for help, who mobilized with unprecedented speed and efficiency, who brought such overwhelming force that they rarely needed to use it, who protected not to conquer but simply because it was the right thing to do. The galaxy had learned a valuable and important lesson through hard experience. Never underestimate 1 year after the Harmony's Light incident, the galaxy had changed in ways that nobody could have predicted. The human doctrine of rapid response to distress calls had spread like wildfire through council space. 17 different species had adopted similar protocols. Raiding and piracy had dropped to the lowest levels in recorded history. Captain Jake Morrison stood on an observation platform on Earth's largest orbital station, looking down at the blue and green planet below. He was home on leave for the first time in 8 months. The view never got old. "Captain Morrison, there you are," a familiar voice called out. Jake turned to see Admiral Laura Grant approaching with a warm smile. "I heard you were back. How does it feel to be a legend?" Jake laughed and shook his head. "I'm not a legend. I just did my job. We all did." "The galaxy sees it differently," Laura said, standing beside him at the viewing window. "Do you know how many species have named ships or stations after you? 43 at last count. The Valorans are building a monument on their homeworld dedicated to the Indomitable and its crew. That seems excessive for just doing the right thing." "Maybe that's exactly why they're doing it," Laura said thoughtfully. "Because to you it was just doing the right thing. To them it was a miracle they never expected. For 10,000 years the Council operated on the principle that consensus mattered more than speed. That proper procedure was more important than immediate action. You changed that entire way of thinking in a matter of hours." Jake was quiet for a moment, watching the planet slowly rotate below them. "Have there been any problems? Any incidents where the new protocols caused issues?" "A few minor ones," Laura admitted. "The Centaurians deployed their rapid response fleet to what turned out to be a false alarm, cost them some political embarrassment but no real harm. The Delthonians rescued a merchant convoy from raiders last month, saved 200 lives. Overall, the new system is working exactly as intended." "And the Krathons?" "Their raiding activity is down 92% from this time last year," Laura said with satisfaction. "Most of their former raiders have turned to legitimate shipping and trade. Turns out when you remove the profit from piracy by actually responding to attacks, pirates find other work." "Good. That's how it should be." Laura turned to face him directly. "Jake, there's something I need to discuss with you. You're being promoted to Commodore. You'll be taking command of the 5th Rapid Response Group. 25 ships under your direct command, with the authority to coordinate with other groups as needed." Jake was genuinely surprised. That's a significant jump in rank and responsibility. "You've earned it 10 times over. The crews trust you, the Council trusts you. Even species that were terrified of humans now see you as someone who will protect them rather than harm them. That's invaluable." "When do I take command?" 2 weeks. Enjoy your leave time while you have it." After Laura left, Jake remained at the viewing window for a while longer. A Commodore. in command of his own response group. It was a lot of responsibility, but it also meant he could help more people, save more lives. That made it worthwhile. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, Ambassador Alex Turner was presenting Earth's proposal for a galaxy-wide emergency communication network. The system would allow distress calls to reach every rapid response fleet simultaneously, ensuring the closest force could always respond first. This network would reduce average response times by 40%, Alex explained to the assembled ambassadors. It would also provide real-time coordination between different response fleets, preventing duplicate responses and ensuring efficient coverage. The Valoran ambassador was the first to speak in support. Earth has already proven their commitment to saving lives. This proposal would extend that protection to every corner of Council space. We fully support it. One by one, other species voiced their approval. Even the Centaurians, who had initially opposed Earth's military mobilization, voted in favor. The measure passed almost unanimously. After the session, Ambassador Kethvar approached Alex with something that looked like pride in their expression. Your species has changed the galaxy more in 1 year than most species change it in 1,000. That is remarkable. We just wanted to help, Alex said honestly. When we joined the council, we were afraid everyone would see us as violent barbarians from a death world. Instead, you gave us the chance to show who we really are. And who are you really? Kethvar asked gently. People who answer when someone calls for help, Alex replied simply. That's all we ever wanted to be. On the bridge of the newly commissioned EDF warship Defender, Commander Sophie Martinez stood at attention as the ship's captain gave her final briefing before their first patrol. Sophie had been promoted after her actions during the Valoran rescue. Now she was the executive officer of an entire warship. Our patrol route takes us through the outer sectors, the captain explained. These areas have historically had higher piracy rates. With the new emergency network going online next week, we need to be ready to respond at a moment's notice. Understood, sir. The crew is ready. I know they are. You trained most of them yourself. Lieutenant Martinez, you've become something of a legend in the Corps. Marines across the fleet want to serve under your command. Sophie felt uncomfortable with the praise. I just did my job. Sir, you saved 300 lives while treating frightened civilians with compassion and professionalism. That's more than just doing your job. That's being exactly the kind of person we need, representing humanity to the galaxy. Later that day, Sophie received a personal message from Ambassador Kethvar. The Valoran wanted to thank her again for her kindness during the rescue. They also wanted to tell her that their youngest child, who had been on the Harmony's Light, was now studying to become a pilot in the Valoran Defense Force. Your example inspired them, Kethvar wrote. They want to protect others the way you protected us. You have changed not just lives, but futures. Sophie read the message 3 times, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. This was why she had joined the military. Not to fight wars or conquer enemies, but to protect those who needed protection, to be someone that others could count on in their darkest moments. Back on Earth, in a small town in the Midwest, a young woman named Lisa Chin watched news reports about the expanded rapid response fleets. She had been considering joining the Earth Defense Force, but had been uncertain about whether it was the right choice. Watching Captain Morrison speak about protecting innocent lives, seeing the gratitude from alien species across the galaxy, made her decision clear. She wanted to be part of something bigger than herself. She wanted to answer the call when others needed help. The next day, she walked into a recruitment office and signed the papers. She was not alone. Recruitment numbers had increased 300% since the Harmony's Light incident. Young people across Earth wanted to be part of this new role humanity had carved out for itself. 6 months later, Lisa graduated from basic training at the top of her class. She was assigned to the indomitable, now under the command of Commodore Jake Morrison. Her first day on the bridge, she was nervous and excited in equal measure. "Relax, Ensign," Jake said with a friendly smile. "We all started somewhere. Just focus on doing your job well and treating everyone with respect. That's all anyone can ask." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." That night, as Lisa lay in her bunk on the Indomitable, she thought about the path that had led her here. From a small town on Earth to a warship that had become famous across the entire galaxy. All because its crew had decided that saving lives mattered more than following outdated procedures. She fell asleep, feeling proud and purposeful. 3 years after the Harmony's Light incident, Captain Jake Morrison, now Commodore Morrison, sat in his ready room reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The 5th Response Group had been deployed 17 times in the past year. They had saved over 2,000 lives from various disasters, attacks, and emergencies. Not once had they needed to fire their weapons in anger. The mere presence of a human rapid response fleet was enough to make most hostile forces surrender or flee. A communication came through from Earth Defense Command. It was Secretary Mitchell again, looking pleased. "Commodore Morrison, I wanted to inform you personally. The Council has voted to create a new position, Galactic Emergency Response Coordinator. They want you for the job." Jake was stunned. "Sir, that would be a council position, a political role." "It would be a command role," Mitchell corrected. "You would coordinate all rapid response fleets across Council space, every species that has adopted the protocols. You would have the authority to deploy forces from any willing nation to any emergency. The Council trusts you, Jake. More importantly, they trust that you'll use that power appropriately." "I don't know what to say." "Say yes. The galaxy needs someone like you in that position, someone who will always prioritize saving lives over politics." Jake thought about it for a long moment. It would mean more responsibility, more pressure. But it would also mean he could help coordinate responses across the entire galaxy, save even more lives. "I accept, sir." "Good. You start in 2 months. Congratulations, Coordinator Morrison." After the call ended, Jake walked to his observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone might need help right now. Someone might be sending out a distress call, hoping against hope that someone would hear it and respond. Thanks to what humanity had started, there was now an entire network of species ready to answer that call. Ready to deploy within hours. Ready to bring overwhelming force not to conquer, but to protect. The galaxy had learned from Earth's example. They had learned that speed mattered. That action was better than endless debate. That protecting the innocent was worth bending or breaking outdated rules. Jake thought about Ambassador Kethvar and the 300 Valorans who were alive because humans had decided to act. He thought about the 2,000 other people his response group had saved. He thought about all the lives that had been saved by other species adopting similar protocols. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not superior weapons or advanced technology, but a willingness to use their strength in service of others. A refusal to let innocent people die while bureaucrats debated proper procedures. The Deathworlders had shown the galaxy a different way forward. A way where protection came before politics. Where saving lives mattered more than saving face. Where answering a call for help was not just encouraged, but expected. And the galaxy had embraced that lesson with open arms. Jake knew there would be more challenges ahead, more distress calls to answer, more lives to save, more difficult decisions to make. But he also knew that humanity would not face those challenges alone. They had proven themselves to the galaxy not as conquerors or threats, but as friends and protectors. Species that had once feared humans now stood beside them as allies and partners. Together, they were building something better. A galaxy where calling for help actually meant help would come, where being weak or defenseless did not make you prey, where every sentient being knew that if they needed protection, Someone would answer their call. It was not a perfect galaxy. There were still threats and dangers, still people who preyed on the weak, still disasters and emergencies. But now there were guardians watching over it all, ready to respond at a moment's notice, ready to bring the fury of a mobilized armada combined with the compassion of those who understood suffering. The Deathworlders had found their place in galactic civilization, not as warriors or conquerors, but as the ones who answered when others called. And they would always answer, always, made a species from a death world. Not because they will destroy you without mercy, but because they just might save you when no one else can or will. And in the final analysis, that made all the difference in the universe. The Krathons had learned to fear human response times. The Velorans had learned to trust in human protection. The Council had learned to adapt 10,000 years of tradition, and humanity had learned that their unique nature, forged in violence but tempered with compassion, gave them a role that no other species could fill. They were the ones who answered the call, always and without fail. Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the stars rushing past as the Indomitable raced toward another ship in distress. Somewhere ahead, people were in danger, people who had called for help, and humans were coming to answer that call, just like they always would. Jake looked out at the stars visible through the view screen. Somewhere out there, other species were watching and learning, some with gratitude, some with fear, some with a mixture of both. But they were all learning the same lesson. When you called for help in this galaxy, there was now a species that would answer. A species that could mobilize massive military force in hours. A species that would cross vast distances to protect the innocent. The Deathworlders had shown their true nature, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as protectors, as guardians who would stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. It was a role that humans were uniquely suited for, shaped by violence but not consumed by it, strong enough to fight but wise enough to know when fighting was necessary. The galaxy would never be quite the same again, and that, Jake thought, might not be such a bad thing after all. 300 Velorans were alive today because humans had chosen to act rather than debate. 300 families would not be torn apart by slavery or death. 300 voices would continue to exist in the galaxy. That was worth whatever political consequences might come from the Council. That was worth everything. Jake let out a breath he had been holding. 3 dead was 3 too many. But it could have been so much worse. 300 people were alive because humans had answered their call for help. And the Krathon prisoners? Jake asked. Secured on the prison ship Alcatraz. Admiral Grant is personally watching over the transfer. Good. Jake looked out at the fleet surrounding them. He felt proud of what they had done. The Third Fleet had mobilized in record time. They had crossed 20 light years of space. They had secured the situation without firing a single shot in anger. That was the true power of a Death World species. Not the ability to destroy, but the ability to bring such overwhelming force that destruction became unnecessary. Show such strength that enemies surrendered rather than fight. The Krathons had learned that lesson today. The rest of the galaxy was about to learn it too. Aish. I gave you a chance. You should have taken it. He cut the transmission. Sir, multiple slipstream signatures forming behind us, Kyle suddenly shouted. Dozens of them. Jake's smile grew wider. Right on time. Put it on screen. The view screen showed space behind the Indomitable. One by one, massive human warships burst out of slipstream space. 5 ships became 10. 10 became 20. 20 became 50. They kept coming, dropping into normal space in perfect military formation. The Third Fleet had arrived, and they had brought enough firepower to level a planet.